Hey everybody, this is Perch, and the Emerald City Comic Con's a couple days away here, and I'm going to be wandering around that thing, buying people beer if they want it. People just have to come up to me and say, "Buy me a beer," and I'll buy them a beer. That'll be fun. Anyway, I think this is going to be one of the well, we're headed to the end of cons. I'm just going to throw that out there. And not because of the pandemic, although that will probably speed some things along. Hopefully, the thing that kind of worries me a little bit about comic conventions and everything else is that the organizers, a lot of the event people, are they're kind of waiting it out with the idea that, oh, we'll get back to cons and everything will be back to the way it was. And if we have to do something kind of in the interim, then we'll arrange some Zoom calls and we'll do some virtual Comic Con. I mean, were any of those any good? Any at all? Like I paid attention to a bunch of the virtual cons. They were all terrible. DC Fandom probably was the best of them, purely because it felt like they sunk some money into it to try and make it something better. But I mean, it wasn't. None of this stuff was good. We just had the San Diego Comic Con conclude, and the funny part about that one is that there was zero news that came out of it, like zero. The big news article that Bleeding Cool managed to get out of it was Rich Johnson be like, "I got invited to a party." That was it. I think it was good for some of the creators that showed up there, got commissions done, and everything else. But if you think about it, cons are pretty inefficient if the only real purpose of them is to kind of sell some comic books from shops and have creators, artists primarily show up to give interviews and do commissions. If that becomes the primary goal, and by the way, that's a perfectly fine goal. I think the artist should make money, and I do think comic shops need to sell comics. That's all good. But if those are really the only two goals coming out of the con, then you know, is going to a convention hall once a year for like 3 days, setting up a bunch of tables, paying the event staff to bring all this, having the union come in and out and set up your booth and all the rest. Does that make any sense? In a world where we have technology, like here, I'll give you an example. What if, again, I've hated the Zoom virtual cons, but what if there was an ability for you to go to a site and click on the "I would like to engage with a creator." Meaning I would like to have a creator do a commission for me. And here's a list of the creators, kind of like that. What is that lame site where you can Cameo, where you can go and you can pay somebody to like give you a 30-second little video. I looked into that to have some people do some funny stuff for my channel, but many of the creators, or the not creators, the actors, the people there on this Cameo site, they're like, well, we'll give this to you, but you can't actually show it to, you can't put it on YouTube, for example. You can't show it to anyone else. It's like, well, okay, then it defeats the whole purpose. I'm not going to spend $400 to get somebody to record like "Happy Birthday" to me on the phone. Like, who cares? I'm actually kind of curious who that would even work for. Like, if I had a friend who was a super fan of some, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I could pay The Rock $1,000 to say "Happy Birthday," and he would record a little 30-second video saying "Happy Birthday." My friend knows there's nothing personal about that. The friend would know that I paid $1,000 to have him say "Happy Birthday." Like, does that even matter as a birthday request? I mean, can't you? I mean, you could just go back through the archives of. I mean, sure, somebody has gotten a clip of The Rock saying "Happy Birthday" to somebody in one of the movies or Raw or something, and you could just hand them that. I mean, it's just as personal. Anyway, sorry, I got off track. But what if you could go to a site like that, all right, and say, "I would like a commission from Ben Templesmith." All right. And basically, rather than just order a commission, part of that fee, and it would cost a little bit more, is that you got on Zoom or whatever with Templesmith for 10 minutes and you got to chat a little bit like you would at a con. Again, not as cool as being there in person, but you got to chat with him a little bit, tell him kind of what you want, and then he'd do the commission for you and give it to you, and you could get it done that way. Again, not as good as being in person, but pretty good if you live in a part of the country and can never get to a con, or you're never able to see Templesmith. Like, that would put more money in Ben's pocket, quite a bit more money actually, because suddenly he'd have access to a bunch of fans that he doesn't have access. Now he has a Patreon and other things, so he's doing a lot of this already. But my point is, can Artist Alley be something that's virtualized, not just with an online order form, but with an actual like experience where you got to talk to the person, you got to have a little video call with them, then you got to, you basically do the handoff of the commission like you would if you were there in person. If something like that existed and it was fairly, affordable, but still good money, still more than the commission would cost if you showed up there at the con because you're getting a little bit more for it. Um, would that be something reasonable? I think, frankly, I think the artists would make more money in that approach, and maybe that's a little bit more efficient. I don't know. For a lot of artists, a lot of creators, going to the con and being able to see people in person, having that whole experience is important. It's valuable. There's something special about that can't be replicated through a computer screen. That's very true. But at the same time, I don't think the financials support this. Because in terms of the panels and everything else, I mean, the panels have gotten increasingly kind of eyeball rolling. They've gotten groan worthy, cringy. The panels don't really tell us anything new, and they haven't for a while. If you've been paying attention to the panels for the last, like, say, 5 years, nothing really gets announced there. And frankly, if you went to a con, especially San Diego, you waited in line for 4 hours in order to be allowed access to a room. You get in there, they announce a new X-Men book. But again, even the specialness has worn off that, since the new X-Men book's coming in pretty much every couple weeks. And the news of that X-Men book, along with preview art that is better than what was shown in the hall, if it was available online within 15 minutes of the session, like it usually is, what's even the point? Like just, you would never want to do that. Like, who wants to stand in a line to get into a room for 3 hours to be part of a big congested group of people to hear a bunch of stuff you've already heard before in a panel where it's not professional? You don't get to meet the people. It's all from a distance. And then you get a news announcement that everyone else in the world also gets within minutes of you seeing it. Is that worth hundreds of dollars for a ticket and waiting in line and going all this? No. I think that the cons have been sustained a little bit because comic news is so awful. The news sites and the columnist sites and all the rest, they're snarky and they're crappy and they're usually agenda heavy, and they're not very good. And in many cases, I think YouTube has accommodated some of that desire. But at the same time, a lot of YouTube channels are based around, here's what you should be pissed about today. Be pissed about this. You should be pissed. How many ways can the word woke be turned into a word? By the way, I'm impressed. Somebody should consolidate. Like, there's woketard, wokeism, woke apocalypse, woke zine, woke mageddon. Like, there's a lot of woke words. I'm impressed with the creativity out there. I guess my point here is, like, the cons are not sustainable as a business model. Renting the convention center is expensive. Getting all the tickets and the printed stuff, and frankly, with the new COVID protocols and health checks and all that kind of stuff, it's driven up the cost further. It's built on the fact that people are still willing to come to these things and pay hundreds of dollars for tickets to get in. But with health concerns, that's going to drop. And increasingly, the value you get is shrinking. Cons I don't think they last much more than 5 years. I think there will be expos and other things maybe that people can get together on, but all it takes is for somebody to crack being able to provide some of these services. I mean, again, if you're an artist sitting at home and there's a convenient site you can log into, like Fiverr or something like that, and you can see requests and you can click on one, and there's an easy scheduler, and you can schedule a time to have a chat with the person requesting the art from you, and then you do the commission, and there's an easy way to mail it off as well. All that's, when you sign up, maybe they send you a bunch of FedEx envelopes pre-marked, so all you have to do is drop it off somewhere. Don't even have to worry about any of the billing because it's all being handled through the site. If you had something like that, like, what would be your motivation to go to Artist Alley at all? I mean, meet people. That's cool. I like meeting people too. Like I said, I'm going to meet a bunch of people and buy them beer and everything else, and that'll be fun. But is it worth your time flying around the country, putting up with this stuff? I mean, again, the money doesn't work out. You could also, frankly, try a different way. You could still fly around, stay at Airbnbs, travel with your work. I mean, if you're an artist, is there a reason you need to have a home? I mean, again, the money, right? You need money, but if you could have a stable source of income where you're doing commissions and you're able to connect with people and you're able to send in your pages from wherever, and we live in this new digital world, like why aren't you living in Panama or somewhere in Cancun, or I mean wherever the hell you want? You can't. You don't have to live in this country. You don't have to live in an apartment in a city. And when you cut off the going to conventions to do commissions and other things, like, you know, who cares anymore? I don't know. I think conventions are dying. I think that we'll see. A lot of people will be packed into Emerald City Comic Con. I admit that's not a big draw for me. I'm not super excited about that, but a lot of people will be there. And, we'll see. But I think overall, the amount of money they bring in, over time, how that economics is going to scale, what people are going to into, and then more importantly, kind of better, more convenient ways to get news out of you. If you had a strong, good comic news site that actually had, videos and text and everything else, and it was not, it didn't turn into this snarky bullshit that you get other places. If you had a way for artists to do commissions in a new tech forward way, you know, what's the point? At that point, you need something for the retailers. Retailers also need an online selling mechanism so they can have the effect of a comic convention, year round from anywhere. And now we're just talking about meetups. And if we're doing that, then you can schedule events and ways for comic fans to kind of, connect with each other and meet up. But the price of renting out a convention center goes away. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm being too negative. A lot of you, by the way, I'm quite positive will not like what I've said, because you like the experience of going to the convention, walking the floor, seeing things in person. I'm with you. I like that as well. Like I said, I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con. I'm going to buy people beer. I like that experience. I'm just saying from a going forward plan, I don't see how it lasts. I don't think it, I think the math, the economics, the hassle of it does not work out over time. We'll see. This isn't me running around with the world is ending kind of sign. I just, looking at it logically, I don't see how it works. Let me know in the comments below. You can tell me how wrong I am. And thanks for listening.